Hi guys, and welcome to my very first card making video. I've got a Lawn Fawn card today, and I'm going to be using this Gnome Sweet Gnome set. That little flamingo has been calling my name in this cold weather that we've been having, so I'm going to make a card using him. First, I am going to stamp him on some watercolor paper. This is Canson 140-pound cold pressed paper. It's my favorite watercolor paper for sure. I love how sturdy it is. It doesn't pill when I use it, which is always a plus. And yeah, I think it's a pretty quality paper. So I'm stamping it in some Hero Art black dye ink. And the reason for that is A, it's an amazing ink. It's super crisp. Always get a good stamp with it. And B, it is good for using with watercolors because it won't bleed and run and everything. So I've made a couple masks using that Flamingo set, and I apologize in advance. I keep calling him a penguin. I don't know why. So if that happens, you're warned. So yeah, so I stamped him on this 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 panel that I have here, and I used that mask to, you know, make it look like some flamingos were in front of the other ones, so it looked like they were just kind of naturally walking. And I didn't worry too much about making them, you know, perfect. I just wanted it to be kind of even so the whole panel was covered, and that's what I did there. So once I was done with that, I took off those masks and I'll be putting one back on that center flamingo because he is my focal point for this card. And I'll be using the Black Soot and Pumice Distress Inks by Tim Holtz. And I'm starting with the pumice stone because I want the area around him to be the lightest. And then I'm working in that black soot with my mini ink blenders, and I want it to be fading out away from him, getting darker away from him. I like to smush my ink on the craft mat and bring it in that way. Sometimes I think it just goes on a little smoother that way. And now that that's done, I'll be taking off the mask and adding some color to that flamingo. I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and for his body I've got a pink and a light pink, and I just started with that light pink, using just a watercolor brush and some water to blend it out, and then I'm adding the darker pink for some shadows and stuff. I'm kind of putsy when it comes to my coloring. I love coloring, so I would take all day doing this, but for you guys' sake, I sped it up a little here. And then I will go on to his beak, which is using orange and bright yellow. And then I just put my heat gun on there to dry everything up so I could move on to my next steps. And so next I'm going to be making my sentiment, and I'm using 2 more Lawn Fawn sets, Milo's ABCs and Smitty's ABCs. And I love these alphabet stamps from Lawn Fawn. They work so easily, and I never have issue with them. I always use a block that has the grid lines on it so that I can line them up even better. But they go together so easily as is. It's not usually an issue. So that top line says you were meant to and the bottom line will say stand out. And the top line is using those Milo's ABCs, and the bottom line will be the Smitty's ABCs. Both of these fonts are among my favorite overall. Sometimes I do better when I turn my block vertically. I was having trouble thinking of that word. So once I've got that all set out, I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper and just stamp it out and make sure that everything's spelled right. I have a tendency to forget letters or make spelling mistakes, and also to make sure that everything's lined up correctly, because even though it is really easy to do, Sometimes I just go through it so fast that I get a little off kilter, so I'm just checking spelling and straightness here. And I decided that O in 2 is just a little low, so I fixed that, and I will test it out one more time, and then I'll stamp it on my piece of paper there. That is Basil Craft cardstock. I got that at Michael's, where they have a deal at Michael's for Basil paper, and I think it's like the more you buy, the cheaper it is, kind of thing. So I always try to buy a good amount of that. I mean, it's not hard to do. It's great paper, but you can get a good price on it that way. So here I am stamping the sentiment straight onto my paper that will go on my card. Again, I'm using that Hero Arts black dye ink, partly just because it was out, but mostly because it is my favorite black ink. Now I've got my rectangle dies, the stitched rectangle dies from Lawn Fawn out, and I'm going to use it to make a stitched border on my Flamingo panel and also the sentiment strip, because then it will match when I line it up. I plan on lining it up against that left side of the card there, and then it will all match. So I decided that I wanted the other side of the sentiment strip there to be a banner. So I cut straight down the middle and then connected from each side's points to the center, and that creates a banner. Oh, and then there was a little piece of paper that wasn't straight, and I had to fix that. Of course I did. So now I'll be attaching this to the Flamingo panel, and I'm going to be using some foam tape. Oh no, first I'm going to, put my card base together, or not put it together, but just fold it. I'm using Nina Solar White cardstock. I believe this is 80-pound cardstock. I like my card bases to be a little more substantial and not so flimsy, so that's why I really prefer this paper. So now I'm going to put my panel onto my card base here, and I'm going to use some Tombow Extreme tape runner. I really like this tape runner. It's one of my favorites. It's so strong. The only thing that makes me nervous about it is you don't really have any wiggle room. You know, once it's down, and that always makes me nervous, but it holds so well. That's always good. So here I am putting on my card base there. And once I've got it lined up, I'll push it all down, make sure it's all secure. And now I'll be adding some foam tape to that sentiment. I am almost out of my foam tape. It's a little nerve-wracking. I need to go get some more. And once that's down, the card is nearly done. Next, I'm just going to add some gloss and shimmer to the Flamingo. His beak is going to get some Wink of Stella as well as some glossy accents. I like adding just a little touch of glitter and gloss to every card. It never fails. And here you can see my glossy accents is always getting clogged. I need to get some of those fine tip applicators. I've been dying to get my hands on them, but I just haven't had a chance yet. And once that's done, my card is pretty much finished. I have some photos for you here at the end, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to hear what you think of the card and the video and everything. So if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment, it would make my day. hopefully I will see you guys very soon with another card or video. Have a great day. Bye.